My wife secretly gambled away our $500, $0 inheritance, then forged my signature to sell our house and split the proceeds. Now she's filing for divorce and claiming I'm the bad guy. I never thought I'd be the kind of guy to get like this, but here I am. It all started with a gut feeling, that nagging suspicion that something wasn't right. My wife had always been a bit dramatic, but she was also charming, beautiful, and seemed to have her act together. We'd been married for 10 years, and honestly I thought we had a decent life. She was supposed to be my partner, my best friend, the one I could count on. But then little things started to add up, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something. It started with small stuff, her phone ringing late at night, her dismissive attitude when I asked about her day, and her suddenly being more secretive about her phone and messages. Was always a little bitchy when I asked questions, but now she was downright hostile. She snapped at me once when I asked who she was texting so late, and she said it was none of my business. I shrugged it off at first, thinking maybe she was stressed or just annoyed with me. But then I noticed she was spending more time out of the house, claiming she was meeting friends or going to the gym. A few weeks ago, I decided to check our bank statements. I'd always trusted with money. It was a shared account, and I figured she'd handle her expenses. But what I found was shocking. She'd been withdrawing huge amounts of cash, sometimes as much as $10, $0 at a time. I thought maybe she was investing or paying off a credit card, but then I saw the transactions labeled gambling and bets. I couldn't believe it. She had secretly gambled away our inheritance, the $500, $0 we got from my grandparents' estate. I remember the day she told me we'd gotten the money, how excited she was, how she kept talking about how she'd use it to secure our future. Turns out, she'd been blowing it all on poker and online betting sites. That was just the start. Then I found out she'd been forging my signature to sell the house we bought together 5 years ago. I had no idea she was planning to do that until I got a call from the real estate agent. She listed the house without telling me, and the sale had gone through. When I confronted her, she looked at me like I was crazy and said she was doing it for us, that we needed the money, that I'd never understand her reasons. She claimed she'd been overwhelmed and trying to fix things, but I knew better. I had this sinking feeling that she was hiding something far worse. The worst part was that she was already talking to divorce lawyers, filing papers, trying to push me out of our life. She said I was controlling, paranoid, and that I didn't trust her. But I wasn't paranoid. She'd been sneaking around, lying, and betraying me in ways I never imagined. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I'd always thought we had a solid foundation, but now I saw the truth. Was a liar, a thief, and she had been cheating on me emotionally and maybe physically too. I didn't know what to feel. Anger, sadness, betrayal, everything was crashing down all at once. I just wanted to understand how she could do this, how she could lie so effortlessly, and what she was planning next. My world was falling apart, and I knew I'd have to decide what to do about it. After I found out about the gambling and the house sale, I was a mess. I stayed up all night, staring at the ceiling, trying to process what I'd just learned. The betrayal was so deep I couldn't even cry anymore. I just felt numb. The next morning, I decided I needed to confront her face to face. I called and told her to come over. When she arrived, she looked annoyed, like I was bothering her. That was a bad sign right there. I didn't waste time. I laid out everything I knew about the gambling, the house sale, the forged signature. Her face twisted into a smirk, like she thought she was getting away with something. She started lying right away. Said she'd been just trying to help us out, that the inheritance was money she could manage better, and that I was overreacting. That really made me angry. I asked her why she didn't tell me, why she didn't trust me enough to tell me what she was doing. She shrugged, said she didn't want to worry me, that she was doing it all for our future. But her words didn't match her actions. I could see the flicker of guilt behind her eyes, the way she avoided eye contact. I pressed her further, asking where the money was, how much she'd actually lost. She kept insisting she'd only gambled a little, that she'd been saving us from financial trouble, which was a lie. I knew she'd blown through hundreds of thousands, and she'd already sold the house without my consent. The more I pushed, the more defensive she got. She started calling me paranoid, saying I was accusing her of things she hadn't done, and that I was crazy for doubting her. That was the moment I realized I was dealing with someone who had completely lost her sense of reality, or maybe just didn't care. Her lies were getting more elaborate. She said I was imagining things, that I was jealous and insecure, that I was trying to control her. But I was. I just wanted honesty, loyalty, and respect. Instead, I got a woman who was sneaking around, lying, and now trying to gaslight me into believing I was the problem. The emotional toll hit me hard. I felt a mix of rage, heartbreak, and utter disappointment. How could she do this to us? To me? We built a life together, and she was out there gambling away everything, forging my signature and planning to walk away with the money. The betrayal cut so deep I wondered if I'd ever trust anyone again. I started questioning everything. The years we spent together, the vows we made, the love I thought we shared. It was like my entire world was crumbling and I couldn't do anything but stand there, stunned, trying to hold myself together as she continued to deny everything, spinning her web of lies. After that confrontation, I knew I couldn't just sit around and do nothing. I had to figure out my next move. I spent days going over everything I knew, trying to piece together what she'd done, how deep her lies went. Kept up her act, acting innocent when I pressed her, but I could see through her. She was good at lying, but not good enough to hide the guilt. Her eyes. I started digging into the bank records myself, got access to the accounts she'd been hiding from me, and that's when I uncovered even more. She transferred money into secret accounts, made withdrawals from ATMs far from home, and even paid off some of her side bills. The gambling wasn't just a few bets, it was an obsession. She'd lost almost all of the inheritance, and that's when I realized she hadn't just been gambling for fun, she'd been actively trying to wipe us out financially. I also found the documents related to the house sale. She forged my signature, signed legal papers, and arranged the sale behind my back. I couldn't believe she'd go this far. I felt a mixture of anger and helplessness. I had trusted her and she betrayed me in the worst way possible. I knew I had to get legal help, but I also knew I couldn't just let this slide. I had to confront her again with proof. One evening, I set up a meeting with her in our living room. I told her I knew everything about the gambling, the forged signature, the sale of the house. Her face went pale, but she tried to act calm. She started crying, claiming she'd just lost control, that she'd been overwhelmed and thought she could fix everything with the money. Her excuses were pathetic. She said she was sorry, that she loved me and begged me to forgive her. But I wasn't buying it. I could see right through her crocodile tears. I asked her what she planned to do next. She said she was going to divorce me, take whatever she could, and start fresh. She tried to make me feel guilty, saying I was the reason she did all this, that I was distant, controlling, that I didn't understand her. But the truth was, I'd been the one trying to hold us together, and she was the one tearing us apart. I told her I wasn't going to let her get away with this, not without consequences. I had already started talking to lawyers and accountants, preparing to get everything sorted out legally. That night, I felt a strange mixture of rage and sadness. Part of me wanted to fight for us, to work through this mess, but another part knew the damage was already done. I realized I was going to have to rebuild my life from scratch. The trust was shattered. The woman I loved was gone, replaced by someone I barely recognized. But I also knew I couldn't stay in a marriage built on lies and betrayal. I had to take control of my future, even if it hurt. That's when I made the decision enough was enough. I was done being a victim. It was time for justice, and whatever came next, I was going to face it head on. Over the next few weeks, everything moved faster than I expected. I hired a lawyer, someone sharp and experienced in financial crimes and divorce law. We started gathering every piece of evidence: bank statements, forged documents, screenshots of transactions, even recordings of her trying to justify her actions. I felt like I was building a case against her, but honestly, it was also a way to keep myself sane, to regain some sense of control in this chaos. Meanwhile, continued to act like nothing was wrong, but her facade was cracking. She was increasingly defensive, snapping at me over small things, trying to spin her lies even more desperately. Every time I caught her in a lie, it fueled my anger. She'd say, I was paranoid that I was ruining everything, but I knew better now. I saw her for what she was, a manipulative, selfish woman who'd do anything to protect her own skin. One day I found out she'd been secretly seeing someone else. I discovered a series of texts and photos she'd sent to a guy named Jake, a guy she claimed was just a friend. Except the texts were flirtatious, full of suggestive comments, and she'd even arranged to meet him at a hotel last weekend. That was the last straw. I felt a cold wave of betrayal wash over me. The woman who claimed she loved me was lying, cheating, and now openly sneaking around. It was like my entire world was unraveling piece by piece. I confronted her again with the evidence. She tried to deny it at first, but then she snapped. "You're just jealous," she spat. "You're insecure. Jake's just a friend. You're overreacting." But I didn't buy it. I knew what I saw. And I knew I couldn't stay with someone who so blatantly lied and cheated on me. That's when I decided I wasn't going to let her ruin me. I told her she needed to leave the house. She yelled, called me controlling, said I was making her life impossible, but I stood my ground. I told her I was filing for divorce, that she'd have to answer for everything, her gambling, her theft, her cheating. I wanted her out of my life and out of my house. I couldn't keep living in this nightmare. The divorce process started, and honestly, it was a relief in some ways. It was the start of reclaiming what was left of my dignity. But it also hurt. Deep down, I still loved her, or at least thought I did. Now all I felt was betrayal, anger, and a strange sense of emptiness. I realized that trust, something I'd always taken for granted, was gone forever. I'd been by someone I thought I knew, and that realization changed everything. I knew I had to focus on myself now, to pick up the pieces and rebuild my life from the ground up. I didn't know what the future held, but I was done being a victim. It was time to take back control, even if it meant starting over completely. The divorce proceedings moved quickly once I had all my evidence in place. Tried every trick in the book to stall or manipulate the situation. She claimed I was trying to ruin her, that she was the victim, and that I was just angry because she'd moved on. But I stayed firm. I knew her game. She was always good at spinning stories, but I had the proof. The forged signatures, the bank transfers, the texts with Jake, all of it was irrefutable. One of the hardest parts was seeing her in court, pretending to be the innocent wife, acting like she hadn't done anything wrong. She had the nerve to cry and say I was controlling and abusive, that I'd driven her to seek comfort elsewhere. It made me sick. I wanted to scream at her, to tell everyone how she'd betrayed everything we built. But I kept my composure, knowing that the truth was on my side. The judge ordered her to return the money she stole, and she was hit with a hefty fine for the forgery and illegal sale of our house. I got custody of the house, which I decided to keep and rent out until I figured out my next move. It was small victory, but it felt like a weight had been lifted. Still, the emotional scars ran deep. I kept replaying everything in my mind, her lies, her cheating, the betrayal of our vows. It was like a part of me had died, and I didn't know if I'd ever fully recover. In the aftermath, I started to rebuild my life. I focused on my career, threw myself into work, and tried to reconnect with friends I'd neglected. I also sought therapy, something I never thought I'd do but realized I needed. The pain of betrayal was overwhelming, and I had to learn how to forgive myself for trusting her so blindly. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I didn't see the cracks sooner. But I also knew I had done what I could, and now I had to move forward. Looking back, I realized this experience has changed me forever. I learned that people can hide their true selves behind a mask, that trust is fragile, and that greed and selfishness can destroy everything if you're not careful. I regret the years I wasted believing in her, but I also understand that I can't change the past. What I can do now is protect myself, be more cautious, and never let anyone take advantage of me again. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that revenge isn't always about getting even. Sometimes, it's about reclaiming your life and dignity after being knocked down. I'm still healing, still trying to find my footing, but I know I'm stronger now, and I won't let her betrayal define me. I hope anyone reading this who's going through something similar knows they're not alone. Trust is earned, not given, and when it's broken, it's a long road to recovery. But eventually, you do find your way back. Now, sitting here reflecting on everything, I realize just how much this mess has changed me. I used to think I was invincible, that I could trust the person I married with my life. Turns out I was. Betrayal was like a punch to the gut. She took everything I believed in and turned it into dust. But what's worse is how it forced me to confront my own mistakes too. I trusted blindly, ignored the small signs, and let her manipulate my life without question. The thing about betrayal is that it doesn't just hurt, it fractures your sense of security. I used to wake up feeling confident, knowing I had a good life, a good woman. Now, every morning is a reminder of how fragile those illusions were. Still, I've learned to pick up the pieces. I've learned that standing up for myself, even when it's hard, is the only way to truly move forward. I've come to accept that some people are just not worth the trust they betray. One thing I want to say to anyone reading this who might be in a similar situation: don't ignore the red flags. Don't let guilt or fear keep you from seeing the truth. I spent too long convincing myself that things would get better, that she'd change, that I was overreacting. But the truth is, if your gut is telling you something's wrong, listen to it. No amount of apologies or tears can undo the damage done if the foundation is already cracked. And here's the honest truth: revenge doesn't always mean revenge against her. Sometimes it's about reclaiming your life, your sense of self, and your peace of mind. I've learned that healing is a process and it takes time. I still have days when I feel angry or sad, but I also have days when I feel hopeful. I realize now that I don't need her validation or approval anymore. I'm enough on my own. So I've moved out of the house, cut ties with her, and started fresh. I'm rebuilding my finances, my confidence, and my trust in myself. The betrayal will always sting, but it's also made me more cautious, more aware. I know not everyone will be honest, and that's okay. I just have to be smarter about who I let into my life. In the end, I learned a hard lesson: never take trust for granted and never ignore your instincts. Life can throw everything at you, but you get to decide how to handle it. I chose to fight, to rebuild, and to come out stronger. That's what matters now. I hope this story helps someone else see that even in the darkest moments, there's a way to find your strength again.